Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY video. Today I'm unboxing the 4th generation iPad Air. So we can see here, this is the 4th generation model, and this particular one is the 256 gigabyte model with Wi-Fi and cellular. Now I also have the Magic keyboard, which is designed for the iPad Air 4th generation and the 11-inch iPad Pro. And also I have been sent the iPad Smart Folio, which is for the iPad Air 4th generation. Now the iPad Air starts at $899 for the 64 gigabyte Wi-Fi version, and the price goes to $1,099 for the 64 gigabyte Wi-Fi and cellular. Now the 256 gig model with Wi-Fi alone is $1,129. And if you get the Wi-Fi and cellular version, which is the one I always recommend that people should get, that goes to $1,329. Now, when we have a look at the cost of the Magic Keyboard in Australia, and these are all Australian prices, this is $499 for the iPad Air 4th generation version, and it also works with the iPad Pro 11-inch. And for the 12, and so it's $499. For the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, it's $589. It's obviously a bigger keyboard, and it comes with, we'll have a look at it, but it comes with a USB-C pass-through port for charging, and it comes with the trackpad, which makes this unique for the from Apple for iPads. There are third-party models out there as well at cheaper prices, but they're not Apple's. And also the Smart Folio, which comes in a range of colors, is $119. So look, let's do the unboxing of the iPad Air 4th generation. So I'm just going to use my little box cutter here and slice open. Well, actually, there's always Apple's easy opening systems. You don't have to use the box cutters if you don't want to. And this is the box for the iPad Air 4th gen. So I'm just sliding it open there, and inside we have the actual unit itself. This is a silver one, although it comes in a range of different colors, very colorful, beautiful colors that Apple loves to do. And as I open it up and have a look at it, we can see that actually it's got a nice feeling on the screen there, but you can see the little antenna bands at the top there, and it's got the single camera. So how does this compare? Let me just turn it on here as well. I'm just pushing the on button, and there it's turning on. So let's have a look and see how it compares to an iPad Pro 11-inch. Now, you can see here that as it's turning on, I mean, from the back, we just have the one camera, and on this particular iPad Pro anyway, the 11-inch one. And if we have a look at the display here, we can see, just give me one moment, let me go into there's a picture of me. This is actually a picture of me sitting in Steve Jobs' favorite seat at the restaurant that used to be his favorite restaurant. It's now it's a Japanese restaurant in California, well, can't remember if it's exactly in Cupertino or not, but a friend of mine who was a friend of his got me to sit down there, which was very cool. Now, if I turn on this particular iPad here and we turn it around, actually, let me just turn it like this. The bezels are supposed to be slightly different on both models, but anyway, this is the iPad Air and this is the iPad Pro, and yeah, this must be the early one, because I've got a 12-inch iPad Pro as well, and it does have the two cameras as well as the LiDAR, which is the feature of the latest ones. But what sets this one apart from the iPad Pros is that it has the A14 processor. Now, it's interesting to note that the iPad Pros have the A12Z or the A12Z, is the current models, and that has more cores for the actual CPU and the graphics, and that makes the A12Z or A12Z a more powerful processor in benchmarking tests than the A14. But when Apple launches the A14 inside of its next generation iPad Pros, which probably will come sometime next year, they will have an A14X or A14Z or Z, which will be more powerful than the standard A14 that's in here. But even so, the A14 is the same processor that is found in the new iPhone 12 models. And so that is obviously going to be a very advanced processor, which is, the most powerful one that Apple has made yet. It's also the processor that we're expecting to see probably in an even more powerful configuration in Apple's upcoming Apple Silicon powered Macs. Now, one of the things that sets the iPad Air apart from previous iPads is that it, like the 8th generation regular iPad, which I happen to have here, this particular iPad has the Touch ID in the fingerprint, the home button sensor. But on the iPad Air, the home button sensor is on the top. So that is the home button right there. And that is actually Touch ID. So you can activate Touch ID. Now that differs from the iPad Pro in that the iPad Pro has Face ID, just like on the iPhone 10 and up. And so, you're able to just turn on the iPad, have a look at it. You can see the little lock has unlocked and swipe up and you're in. Now with the iPad Air, there is no Face ID, it's Touch ID. But because you have to put your finger on there to actually unlock it in the first place, well, it will unlock. Now I have seen it read that means you have to reach out for your iPad when you want to authenticate on certain websites where you would normally just look and have that be authenticated, as is the case on an iPad Pro. But well, the iPad Air is a lot cheaper than the iPad Pro, and at the moment, it has the A14 as opposed to the A12. Although again, if you need even more grunt, you either wait for the 2021 iPad Pros or you get one of the current iPad Pros. I've also read that, and I'm trying to remember what it is now that I read, but it'll come back to me. But in any case, this is the 4th generation iPad Air, and it's thin, it's light. I mean, it feels like the Pro, but just at a better price point for the people who don't need the Pro features. Now, actually, I remembered now what I was going to say. The iPad Pros have 120 hertz screens, and I'm going to check, but I think these are 60 or 90, but it's not as smooth a screen as the iPad Pro. So there are differences. There are reasons why Apple charges more for the iPad Pros, and the iPad Pros are for a particular category of super powerful user. Now, if I have a look in here, we've got the usual little guides and the standard stickers. We have the iPad Air little guidebook, which will have all sorts of information teaching you how to swipe up and use the various aspects of an iPad Air. I mean, it's a very basic kind of guide. There's obviously a guide you can get from the Apple books for iPhones and iPads. Apple creates user guides that are very detailed. And if you buy the cellular model, you of course have the SIM card removal tool. And then inside we have what should be the 20 watt charger, like we saw with the previous 8th generation iPad, and what can also power the new iPhone 12s at a faster rate than the 18 watt they came with last year. Not that iPhones come with the chargers anymore. And of course we have the USB-C to USB-C charging cable, because this is a USB-C device. Something else that separates the iPad Air from the traditional iPads. As you can see, it is USB-C, and for lots of reasons that makes all the difference. Now let's have a look at the Magic Keyboard. I haven't actually had a chance to look at the Magic Keyboard before, and so this will be my first time checking it out. So I can just open that up like that. No need for the box cutter, and I can pull that particular plastic off, and I can just slide open the box, and inside here we see the Magic Keyboard, and you can see that it's actually made for the 2020, the latest generation iPad Pro. But if I just open this up here, it also fits on the iPad Air. So I can just open it up like this, and you can see that I can remove this piece of cardboard, and in fact there's a little some sort of a, the traditional guides. We've got the Magic Keyboard guide. Don't think we get stickers this time, which is unusual. Apple includes stickers with just about everything, but that doesn't make or break the product. And so this is showing us how the Magic Keyboard works and how you can infinitely pretty much adjust it. So let us grab the, so it clips back nicely. So I'm just going to clip the iPad in place magnetically. So that has been done, and you can see now that the keyboard is floating above the keys. And so when you actually type, your fingers are, able to, well, the screen is able to go back far enough that you have the full space of the keyboard, which is important because you need to make space for the trackpad. That trackpad is something that Apple hasn't had before on its keyboards, but has now. And you can also see that the keyboard is backlit, and it makes a huge difference. It's something I've missed on the smart keyboard of the previous iPad devices. This is the smart keyboard of the iPad Pro that I've got, and just as with the keyboard for the iPad 7th and 8th generation, it's not backlit, and it is. You can see that it's sort of sealed. Nothing can get underneath that. On the iPad Pro keyboard and also on the iPad Air keyboard, the Magic Keyboard, I guess stuff could get underneath there, but what you get in return is a backlit keyboard, which is really great for working at night. And also, the iPad Air can work with the 2nd generation pencil and just clip on top. So you can see that it's definitely magnetic in there, and this is really starting to become very much like a more traditional computing environment, which iPad owners have, wanted since their very first iPad. I mean, Apple has always maintained the ability to use an iPad or an iPhone the way that the very first iPad and iPhones worked. If you fell into a coma 10 years ago and you woke up and you got the latest iPad, you could use it exactly the same way that you remember from 10 years ago, which is astounding. It's incredible. You don't have to use any of the multitasking features or pencils or trackpad or mouse or anything. You can just use it exactly the way that you used it before. Although, of course, with the iPad Air, you have to swipe up to get home as opposed to pushing a home button, with this being the on-off button as opposed to the home button. I think I called this the home button earlier. It's not the home button, it's the on-off button that has Touch ID, but it's how, one way that you can wake it up. You can also just tap on the screen. If I turn it off and tap on the screen, it comes on, which is what you expect modern devices to do. In fact, it's one of the things I absolutely love about the iPhone. I mean, it was great when you could lift it and it would wait, but you can just tap it. Some other phones, Android phones make you double tap, which is, sort of annoying. You just want to tap once. I mean, sometimes double tapping can be handy too, because, you're just picking anyway. So look, that is the unboxing of the Magic Keyboard, and I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with this keyboard and using it and seeing exactly what it's like. But I mean, all the reviews that I've read have been pretty damn spectacular. Now, the other thing that I need to open up is the Smart Folio. So I've got a bunch of things you can't see, which is all of the packaging and all of that sort of stuff. But now I'm going to open up the Smart Folio. So let me just have a look to see if it's already been opened. There's no plastic on this one, so I'm not sure. I think maybe I just slide it out. Is that what I have to do? We'll find out in a sec. Yes, sliding it out. So there we go. So I'm sliding it out, and this is called Pink Citrus. So it definitely stands out. And this is actually made specifically for the iPad Air 4th generation, because you can see the hole there is matching the single camera, whereas this Magic Keyboard works on both the iPad Pro 11-inch and the iPad Air. So let me just open this up. Let me just pull the iPad off. Let me then grab the folio here, and that just magnetizes to that. I mean, in the past you used to have all sorts of little things around the side that you would push the iPad into, or it would magnetically attach on the side with previous iPads. But this one just magnetizes right to that, and that is the modern folio, and I can then, you know, turn it around and hold it up like this, or have the iPad like that, and it is sort of the modern version of the folio that we've all probably used and seen in the past with Apple's earlier iPads. So that's a great way of protecting your iPad from drops and from scratches. But if you can, you know, you're definitely going to want the Magic Keyboard, because using a trackpad with the iPad is quite magical. If you haven't done it, I really do recommend that you get yourself a Bluetooth mouse or one of Apple's trackpads or a competitor trackpad. There are other trackpads out there, and give it a go. It really is something special to be able to use gestures and, you know, Mac OS type gestures on the iPad screen and swipe. And, you know, I mean, you can do everything on the screen as you can before. You can use the pencil as well, but even Apple has reimagined how the cursor works. And so when you move the cursor onto various elements on the screen, the actual dot, which was the Apple iPad version of the arrow on iPad, actually becomes the button that you've got the cursor on, which is really quite clever. I mean, I don't know why people didn't think of it before, but Apple is sort of in the business of redefining what people have thought and then, you know, creating something new and exciting. So I'm going to be playing with the iPad Air. It's basically, you know, like an iPad Pro, but at a more affordable price. And this could easily be one of Apple's most popular iPads over the next 12 months, mainly because it sits beautifully within that, you know, area between the 8th generation iPad and the higher value iPad Pro. And at the moment, if you have to decide whether, you know, you need to get an iPad Air or an iPad Pro, you know, I guess it just comes down to what your specific needs and requirements are. If you're just an everyday user and you want something that is a bit better than the standard 8th generation iPad, but you don't want to pay iPad Pro prices, then iPad Air is the obvious choice. But if you are doing extremely, you know, sort of high-end work that really requires the extra things that the iPad Pro can provide, you might want to wait to see what the next iPad Pro is. I mean, it's probably going to come in the first half of next year, and, you know, that's sometime within the next 9 months. But there are those who are just going to have to, you know, go out and buy the best that they can right now and upgrade at some future time. So, you know, this iPad Air is going to be a very exciting device for a lot of people, delivering that full screen, you know, notchless experience that the iPad Pros have made popular over the past couple of years, but at a better price that leaves a bit of room to, you know, purchase the Magic Keyboard or one of its competitors. But, you know, even this, I can feel it's quite sort of stiff and strong, and it's nice to be able to angle this. I'm going to really have a good play with this keyboard on both the iPad Pro 11-inch and the iPad Air, and I'm looking forward to it. So that is the unboxing of the iPad Air 4th generation, the Magic Keyboard, and the Smart Folio. Thanks for watching.